Hey guys, in today's video I'm going to be talking about two separate businesses that scammed me out of $12,000 on this concrete pour that you are currently watching. Now one of them did it unintentionally, the other one quite intentionally. But I thought these stories were interesting and might give you a glimpse into what contractors have to deal with, and if you wind up hiring a contractor for your job or looking for someone for your job. So let's start with the first contractor. He was a highly reviewed concrete contractor online. He had maybe about a dozen 5-star reviews, and compared to all the other guys I saw that had like 2 or 3 reviews, seemed to have a good reputation. He had a secretary. When he came out, he was the most well-spoken, wasn't trying to push anything. His price was reasonable compared to the other contractors. He was not the cheapest, but he was also not the most expensive. And so based on everything that we talked about, he wrote out a quick contract, which wasn't up to my standards. So I rewrote the contract and we both signed, and everything seemed to be going good. On the day of him first coming out to do the dirt work and to pick up the 25% deposit, he showed up, had his crew there, had the form material, his skid steer, did a decent job, did the dirt work, we brought in dirt, and yeah, everything was going good. And so I paid him that 25% so that he could purchase rebar, do the next phase of that. Okay, let me back up a little. So I paid him 25% and I told him, okay, we need to do the plumbing. So got back to him about a week or so later after the electrical and plumbing was done and said, okay, we're ready now. And he said, hey, I'm on another job, but I'll be over there in a few days. Well, that time came and passed, didn't hear anything from him. So then I reached out to him again, said, hey, just wondering when you're going to be able to come out. And he said, oh yeah, sorry, got held up on this other job, but we'll be out there, X amount of days, couple of days. And that came and went. And so then that kept on happening, where at first I think one excuse was, oh, my truck is in the shop. He sent me a picture of his truck all kind of torn apart. He sent me a text saying, yeah, my truck broke down and, can't make it out there. And then it was, my guy's truck broke down and they can't get out there. Anyways, all these excuses that kept on going. So I called him a couple of times and spoke with him and said, hey, you keep pushing me off. It's been a month now at this point. I'm feeling like I'm getting scammed here. You've got my money, but all we have is the dirt work done. We don't have rebar or, anything like that. And he said, no, man, I've been doing this for however many years he's been doing it. And, I'm not scamming you. It's just, things keep on happening. I was like, okay, fine. Well, anyways, when I first paid him was the end of August. This is 2022. We made it into November. Okay, so made it through a couple of months into November. And at that point, I'm like, okay, this has been going on way too long. I drove to his house and I confronted him directly, because at that point he had told me, oh yeah, let me back up a little bit. I had called him, confronted him, and he said, hey man, my brother just died. So I'm not, I've got to fly out to the funeral or whatever, and, I'll be back later. And so I gave him a couple of weeks to kind of process and deal with that. And then when I called him again, he said, oh, my mother died. She committed suicide because my brother had died. At this point, I'm just like, all right, what in the world? I was like, this is too crazy. There's always something terrible happening to this guy that's preventing him from doing this job. So I decided, you know what, I've just got to drive out to his house. So I drove to his house. It's like 8 a.m., whatever morning it was. And I said, listen, today is the day, or I know you're not going to do it. So, he's like, oh, yeah, sorry, man. Yeah, okay, we'll be out there today. He was just in his boxers, just in his house. So he told me, hey, can you find out about renting the, whatever it was, a trencher or something like that? And I'll get my guys and we'll be out there. Yeah, go on, ahead of me, meet me back there. We'll get this done, okay? And so I'm hesitantly leaving his house. I've recorded the whole conversation. I've got everything I need. I mean, yeah, if it need to go to a lawsuit, got the contract, got everything paid to me or paid to him from me. And so, anyways, I reluctantly leave his house. He's in his truck and it's idling, and I'm just slowly pulling away because I'm thinking, yeah, he's telling me he's got to run some errands before he comes, but he's going to be there. Oh, for sure. Now, this is, months of me hearing this. So I go back to the job site. I'm ready to go. I'm out there. I keep texting and telling him, hey, you about to get here? Where's your guy? He said, oh, yeah, I'm almost there. My guy's coming. Well, about 3 hours of me sitting out there on the job site, he calls and says, hey, man, my guy, he can't get out there today, but we'll be there tomorrow. And so, anyways, I drove back to his house that day. I drove back. I confronted him big time and said, listen, you've been lying about this and that, your truck being broken down, your mom dying. He admitted and said, yeah, my mom didn't commit suicide. I'm like, why are you lying about all these things? And I've got this all on camera too. I'm not going to post any of it because I don't know what kind of legal problems I'd get into because of that. Because currently, well, anyways, jumping ahead of myself. So anyways, get back to his house. He's like, yeah, I was lying. My mom really didn't die. It's been rough. I haven't had any work and I didn't have the money to buy for the rebar. And the thing is I had purchased the rebar because he didn't use the money to buy rebar. So I bought it maybe a week before. So anyways, all of his excuses had run out. And I said, listen, I want on paper that you are going to return me my money, that I'm done trying to work with you. You've had all of the opportunities. I want you to return $6,000. He said, well, $5,000. I'll return $5,000 to you. I said, fine. If you can get it to me tomorrow, then you can just return $5,000. That means that he would have made $2,000 off of this whole ordeal. That would have been $2,000 in profit. So he writes this note, says, I will pay back $5,000 tomorrow. And that was November, 21st or something like that. And I will pay 5% back in interest for every day that I do not pay the $5,000. So he signed it, I signed it. Anyways, I got a copy, he got a copy. Well, whatever, it goes on. And I kind of knew that was going to happen. But I moved on with this concrete crew that you see working in front of you. I got them out there. They got out there 2 days later, and they got that thing formed up and ready to pour before Thanksgiving. They got it poured. So they got it up out there quick, fast, paid them the money. That was it. So, man, I wish I would have gone with them way earlier. Just didn't have any of the red flags that this guy wound up with. Anyways, so he is compounding at $5,000 that he said he'd pay. He's compounding $250 per day that he's not paying me. Anyways, months go by. He hasn't paid anything. So, yeah, at this point, I think he's over $25,000 in debt to me, according to that contract he signed. So he doesn't pay me the money, and it gets all the way to maybe the second week in December, and he says, oh yeah, I'm waiting on a check from another job I did, blah blah blah. Anyways, I don't get any money, so I told him, hey, listen, if you don't provide me with the $5,000 by January 1st, then I am going to have to enter into a lawsuit with you. And go to small claims court and file a small claim. He's like, yeah, I'll get the money. I said, yeah, it's much preferable that we don't have to go to court. Better for you, better for me, better for everyone. So anyways, December 30th comes. I send him a text, say, hey, still haven't heard from you, still haven't gotten anything. I send him a text on the 1st saying, okay, I haven't heard from you. You're not answering your phone again. I'm going to have to start this claim. So I filed the claim, and it was sent to him, and it had to be processed through the sheriff's office and all that. And he calls me, this is, I don't even know, January 14th, something like that. And he says, hey man, why is this court case for $15,000? I only owe you $5,000. And I said, listen, according to that contract that you signed of $250 of interest per day in addition to the 5,000, that's where we're at. That was January 1st, I believe. By that point, you had accrued an additional $10,000 in interest. And I said, listen, I still don't want to go to court, but if I'm going to court, then I'm going to bring the full amount that you agreed to the court. That definitely got his attention, and that was really the reason why I was doing it at 15,000. Not because he signed it, because we're past that now. I mean, he owes me 25,000 according to that agreement now. But I'm not trying to put him out of business. That's not the point of this. The point of this is I paid him for a service he did not provide. And he said he would pay me back, which he should do. If I buy $10,000 worth of muffins from you and you give me $1,000 worth of muffins because you ran out, then you give me back my $9,000. That's reasonable. And he said he would do that, but he did not. And the only way to get his attention was to say, all right, well, based on interest accrued, you owe me $14,000 worth of muffins now. So that did get his attention. We signed a new agreement where he said he'd pay me $250 per week for the next 6 months to pay back $6,000, which was what I had originally asked him for. To this point, even though he texts me about every week saying, hey man, I've got $250 for you, he has never sent it. And at this point, I don't think he will. And we have a court date set for a couple months from now. So we'll see what happens. What I think will happen is the court will say, yeah, we see you should pay him. So you should pay him back $6,000 as you agreed to, pay him $250 a week. That's probably where that's going to end. At least there will be a judgment to where, there's someone bigger than me telling him he's got to pay. That's the fun I had on this job with the concrete guy. Now, on top of that fun experience of wrestling with this guy, then on December 28th, the engineering firm did the engineering for the concrete foundation for this house. For $6,000, I got a charge on my credit card. They were supposed to charge me $350, but somehow they charged me $350 for the pre-pour inspection, where the guy comes out and makes sure everything is done according to their specifications. And then on top of that, they had charged me $5,765. So I got a charge for $6,000. I called them up as soon as that appeared on my statement, which by that point was January 10th, something like that. And I said, what happened here? I think you guys messed up and charged me quite a bit more, 20 times more than I should have been charged. They looked into it. I don't hear from them for a couple of days. Then they get back to me and they say, no, that's correct. And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, no, we had a pre-pour inspection for $350. They're like, yeah, that's what we show. That's all we charge you was $350. I said, no, I've got a charge for an additional $5,765 in my account. And they said, we'll get back to you. So I got my reference numbers and my statement and I sent it to them. And they got back to me and said, well, our batch numbers are showing everything to be good, that we were supposed to receive whatever amount for that day, and we did. And I said, well, yeah, you charged me for someone else's account, so yeah, your batch numbers are going to be correct, because at the end of the day, you were supposed to get $50,000 in payments, and you did. The problem is you got $5,765 from the wrong contractor. So they looked into it, and they're like, no, we do have a $5,765 payment, but that's from another contractor. I'm like, no, that was from me. You may have it written that he paid it, but he didn't. I paid it for him. Here's my reference numbers. Here's the bank. Call them. You can cross-reference everything. You should have a code from the transaction, whatever that's called, that is tied directly to my card. You can verify all of this with your point of sale system or whatever you guys use. Anyways, this seemed pretty simple to me. I was like, even call the other contractor, ask him, if he has a $5,765 charge to his card. And I said, okay, well let's call my bank. So called my bank, had a conference call with one of the techs there. They confirmed everything I was saying. Said, yes, we've got, yeah, this reference number is for this. Check it with your transaction. And they did, and they're like, yeah, that reference number matches with the transaction. And so my bank is like, yes, that's our reference number from his card. And he's like, no, you guys must have messed up because this is from the other guy. Oh, I was. I mean, it's one thing for a company to accidentally charge you close to $6,000. It's another thing for the head accountant of that company to have all this information given to them, to be presented with the facts, and for them still not to get it. Both me and the bank tech assistant guy, we were I could hear him wringing his hands on the other side of the line, trying to explain to this guy at the engineering firm how everything worked. And I mean, this is an accountant. This is what they deal with all the time: is money, transactions, reference numbers. Anyways, there's not going to be two reference numbers from two separate cards from two different banks that are going to match identically. That doesn't happen. So anyways, I gave up at that point. I said, listen, you guys have all the data. I've opened a dispute. You guys are going to get the paperwork from the bank saying, hey, there's this dispute, blah, blah, blah. But it could take 3 months for them to go through this and analyze this transaction and get to you guys. So I prefer it if you guys fix it now. And they said, well, yeah, but there's nothing wrong. We think your bank is wrong. And so anyways, we'll figure it out when it happens. And I tried to tell them, listen, I don't want $6,000 just sitting on that card for however long it takes. Anyways, they were having none of it. So I've just been out of $6,000 for the last couple of months, and just yesterday it popped into my bank account just out of the blue, back onto that credit card. And it just said refund from engineering firm. No email, nothing from the engineering firm. No sorry, we're sorry about this mess, but we've got it back in your account, or anything like that. Oh, so anyways, this is just on one concrete pour. Yeah, both of these things have been quite eye-opening just to see, even from an error, how much hassle and problems it can cause you. Now, thankfully, on the framing and the sheathing, siding, windows, and stuff, while I've had to be diligent to make sure they did everything correctly, I haven't had any of this kind of issue because I've been using companies that I've been able to rely on a little bit more. But yeah, so if you are thinking about doing a job like this, just know it's not all roses and bubble baths. There can be some setbacks that are completely out of the blue. You think you've done your due diligence, you have been on top of everything, and they can still come and bite you from behind. Okay guys, so that is it for this video. Hopefully you enjoyed the stories. I definitely did not enjoy the stories at the time. Maybe you can learn something from what I've told you. Always get contracts, guys. My posterior was saved in this job because I had written out much better contracts than what the concrete guy had wanted to write out, with timelines, amounts, how much was paid. But even I almost got caught off guard because I was being a little too trusting. So every jot, every tittle, cross your I's and dot your T's. Because if you don't, you are going to eventually run into a contractor who may have been a great one, and now they are falling apart, and that contract might be the only proof you've got that you deserve money back or some sort of compensation. So anyways, fair warning for all of you out there. Okay guys, I will see you in the next video.